Warning. The following program contains spoilers for the recently released Batman Caped Crusader. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between to the Count Crane Show. The show where I talk about whatever I feel like, and we have fun whilst doing it. Tonight, we review the Caped Crusader episode, Kiss of the Catwoman. Kiss of the Catwoman is the third episode of Caped Crusader. It was directed by Christopher Berkeley and written by Ed Brubaker, Bruce Timm, and Adama and Adani Ebo. In it, we meet Selina Kyle, a wealthy heiress whose father is in prison for tax fraud. In need of cash, Selina goes on a crime spree as the costumed Catwoman. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne starts attending sessions with psychiatrist Harleen Quinzel after punching a reporter who made an insensitive comment about his mother. Unlike previous and subsequent episodes, this is a fairly light-hearted and comedic story. It has its dark moments, but the tone is much lighter and more farcical compared to other episodes. Tonally, it's more akin to the campy Batman comics of the Silver Age. I mean, Catwoman even says holy mackerel at one point. And the titular Catwoman is where most of that comedy comes from. She is hilarious. A pampered rich girl who's waist deep in debt with an apartment full of stray cats, who's inspired by Batman to become a super thief as a fun way to reclaim her fortune, and treats the whole thing like a game. She casually talks about living like an outlaw like it's no big detail and heavily leans into the cat theme. She has a panther, which she uses to fight Batman at the museum, and even a friggin' Catmobile, which is an engine that roars like a cat. Something that is ripped straight out of the Silver Age and is simultaneously hilarious and awesome. She's an ignorant child who's read too many Batman stories and now wants to become a real-life supervillain. There's a nice contrast between her and Batman, both wealthy socialites with animal-themed costumed identities and absent parents. Bruce's are absent because they're dead, and Selina's because her father's in prison, and her mother is somewhere. They also display some childlike qualities, in the sense that Bruce is stuck with the mentality he had as a child after his parents were murdered, and Selina is carefree and ignorant of the critical situation she's in and the consequences of her actions. A difference further emphasized by the flashbacks we get to the night of the Wayne murders and how Batman was born that very night. Selina even has an Alfred equivalent in the form of Greta, the Kyle family maid, who's another really funny character. I love how Selina just drags the poor maid into her supervillain antics when she just wants to get paid after 3 years. Unlike Alfred, who genuinely cares about Bruce and supports him no matter what, Greta detests Selina and is more than happy to abandon her, which she hilariously does at the end of the episode after Catwoman has been arrested, again, this time with concrete evidence. Greta sells all of Selina's assets and bids her auf Wiedersehen before setting off on a cruise to the Bahamas. As for her design, I love it. It's stripped straight out of the character's early appearances in the 1940s, a purple dress and cat cowl with a green cape. I also like the music that accompanies her, very sultry and sly. This episode features several flashbacks to the night of the Wayne murders, not the murder itself, but the immediate aftermath. The car ride home where Bruce is completely silent, almost like he's in a catatonic state. He repeats the death of his parents over and over again in his head whilst he's in bed. And then, in a scene ripped straight out of a horror movie, he silently opens the door to Alfred's room and states he's going to make all of them pay. And he's going to help him, before slowly closing the door. These take place during Bruce's sessions with Harley, who I won't talk about here because I'm saving my thoughts for the review of the 5th episode, The Stress of Her Regard. Stay tuned for that, by the way. These flashbacks neatly detail how Bruce became Batman that very night, and the foundation of his relationship with Alfred in the present. Unlike other interpretations of Batman, this Bruce is much colder towards Alfred, treating him less like a surrogate father and more like an employee. He doesn't even call him Alfred, only referring to him as Pennyworth. He still cares about him, as we see later on, but he doesn't express it a lot of the time, and it's really upsetting seeing Alfred be so supportive whilst Bruce is unresponsive. He strongly encourages him to continue his sessions with Harley, but Bruce isn't interested. The episode ends with Alfred asking if he got anything out of talking to Dr. Quinzel, but Batman sharply cuts off by saying his coffee's cold, and Alfred solemnly leaves to get a fresh cup. This episode also prominently features corrupt detectives Arnold Flass and Harvey Bullock, who arrest Catwoman after a jewelry store robbery. However, courtesy of Harvey Dent, she's able to walk free, making the duo look incompetent. Flass retaliates by trying to murder her before he gets beaten up by Batman. This episode really demonstrates how corrupt and villainous Flass is. Bullock is a bit more hesitant. When Catwoman is incapacitated by Flass, Harvey takes out his handcuffs before Flass stops him, which seems to surprise Bullock. Presumably, he thought they were just going to arrest her and take her in. However, Bullock is still complicit in a lot of Flass's corruption and will continue to be so in future episodes. Another character I'll briefly touch on is Eel O'Brien, the slimy Gotham Gazette photographer who Batman recruits to take photos of Catwoman. In the comics, Eel is known as the superhero Plastic Man, but here he's just a regular man with no powers. He doesn't play a significant role in the series, and I don't think he even shows up after episode 4, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still enjoy his presence here as a sketchy photographer just trying to make a buck. And his scenes with Batman are genuinely amusing, like the one where he surprises Eel, causing him to almost fall to his death before Batman catches him, yet he continues to dangle the man over the railings as he asks for help taking photos of Catwoman. And there's the scene where he jumpscares Eel, who nervously states he can destroy the incriminating photos of Batman beating up Flash and Bullock, but Batman doesn't care and leaves. In conclusion, I give this episode an 8 out of 10. Really good. It's a fun, light-hearted episode with solid comedic moments and a fun take on Catwoman. The next episode to review is The Night of the Hunters. Tune in for my thoughts. On to you, folks. What do you think of this episode? What do you think of this Catwoman? Leave your answers in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the show and want to see more, like, subscribe, share, you know the drill. And tune in next time for whatever out of the hat discussion I have next.